So right after I got down from the stage, after I spoke to the church, what exactly happened to us was something I'm not sure most of you are aware of it. Now, the moment I got down and I took my seat, your Pastor Chaitanya comes onto the stage and he starts lying. Now, when I heard him speaking lies, I was really depressed and I was so disappointed, and I was also kind of felt very bad that how can a pastor lie so much in front of the entire congregation and in the presence of God. So when I got up with uh, with that with that emotion, the moment I got up, your pastor gave a signal to one of the church members who kind of drags me out of the church. So basically, we were manhandled in this church, right in front of our daughter. While I was being dragged outside, my daughter, who is 5 years old, was watching all this. And she was crying. And my wife, she was carrying our infant child who was just 4 months old, and she was carrying her in one hand and she was trying to pull me away from the people who were dragging me away, and she was crying, "Don't do this, please don't do this to my husband." And I'm shouting at this person, "Do not do this, don't do this." And who are these people? Praveen, Uday, and Ravi. They are the ones who manhandled us in the church. Right in the church where we served for 9 years. Is that how we would be treated? What is that we have done that we have to be humiliated so much right in front of our children? Now all this happened with the permission from your pastor Chaitanya. So as I said, when I was removed from the worship team, they were anticipating that Selvin is going to do something, and they were always prepared to to make sure that this Sunday, if Selvin comes, take care of him. Now that Friday was that before the Sunday, that week Friday was the worship team practice, and they sent Pastor Ashwant to monitor if something is going to happen. Now, church, in the last 9 years, me serving in this church, there is not even one practice where pastors or anybody from the pastoral team turned up to see or monitor what is happening. Why would your Pastor Chaitanya send Pastor Ashwant at morning 5 a.m. to check out or monitor the practice? Because they were insecure. Because they did a mistake. Now, when the people whom I mentioned, Ravi, Praveen, and Uday, your pastor asked them to come to the church that day at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Now, you got to understand something, church. These three people never ever come to time on church. The entire family, they never come to time on church. But that particular Sunday, they came in the morning, because your Pastor Chaitanya told him 7:30 is when Selvin comes with his family, so please take care of him. Now I do have evidence for this, that it was planned by your Pastor Chaitanya. I do have the evidence. Now we were not aware of all these things. I mean, as usually every Sunday how we come to church, we came down, and while we were parking, that's where I saw Uday and Ravi. And I smiled at them, and they did not give a pleasant smile. Now back in my mind, I know that week they are aware of what all happened, and I was thinking, fine, because of that they're not giving faces, which was all right. We went to the church. We don't want to miss prayer time or anything, and we go inside the church. Now these three people, these three persons, the way they sat in the church was surrounding us. Basically, the place where we sat as a family, and all these three guys sat in such a way that We are in between them. And we were not aware of all these things. Now the moment I stood up, your Pastor Chaitanya points his finger at me and tells me that, Selvin, you spoke. It is my time to speak. Let me speak. And I did not do anything. I just stood up because of the lies he is speaking. And that is a signal that he gave to Pravin to drag me out. And they dragged me out of the church, manhandled me right in the church. Is that how a pastor behaves to one of the believers, one of his team member, one of his eldership team member? That is one incident. And what happened week before was with George and Eva. Now George and Eva, we were sending our daughter Hosanna to their school for piano class, but keeping all this in mind, the way he treated my daughter was very rude. Now I didn't know all this that they have kept in their mind. I want to make this statement, George. If it is anybody else other than George, I would have taken him for a ride for behaving like that with my daughter. He was so rude. She was shivering by the way he was teaching her, and she was crying. She cried the entire way back home. From the time we started from the institute till the home, she was crying and saying, "Dad, I don't want to go back to this piano class anymore." Is that how you treat my daughter? What is that my daughter have done that she has to go through this? Now it just doesn't stop there, church. After the service is done, we were expecting that your Pastor Chaitanya will come and get things issue resolved, but he again gives or tells something to these three people, Praveen, Uday, and Ravi. And these three people again come, and they come on us such a way. They cornered us in the church. Most of you were not there. Most of the volunteers were seeing this. It was a chaos allowed by your Pastor Chaitanya. And what was your pastor doing? He was having lunch. He was having lunch downstairs while all this chaos is going in the church. And when this was going on, my daughter was crying. When we were dragged out, my wife was carrying my daughter, little one, and she was crying and asking them not to do it, and she was not sure where is her daughter Hosanna. They dragged the entire family out. Is this how you treat a believer in the church? What is that my daughter has done that you have to treat her like that? Ever since she was months old, she never stopped coming to church. Church, even before any one of you come to church, she comes to church. Early in the morning at 5 o'clock, my wife, while she is still sleeping, she carries her in her arms, and then we come to the church for sound check. She never told me that leave us and go, we will come back later. She always supported. My daughter supported me in the ministry that I was doing. What does she get in return? Memories that is still haunting her. She was in trauma for a couple of days because of the incident. She got up in couple of nights. She got up in fear, stating somebody is dragging Appa. Somebody is dragging Appa. I want to ask you, Chaitanya and Janet, what is that we have done that you have to treat us, humiliate us so much? Is this how you treat a believer? Is that how a pastor treats a believer in the church? Is that how an assistant superintendent of AG treats the believer? I'm very saddened by that act. In all these things, why are they quiet? What is it we have done that they have to behave in such a way? because they are insecure. They felt that we will be the reason for their insecurity. And what is it they are insecure about? I will talk about it.